Hmm.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hello,
Hello.
everyone. And thank you for being here. Um, we were just wondering with Leila what was going to show up today. And so we are welcoming everyone and everything. And I can say that our goal, our intention was to say that just after the training, we all back come back home with in our familiar environment and with lots of information, with a real discovery of generative coaching with these two beautiful Steve and Robert trainers. And sometimes we can wonder what is next. So our intention is to share, perhaps to practice if you want to practice, to ask questions and to share about generative coaching, the generative coaching training. And perhaps we can just begin by presenting ourselves. So we were just beginning with that with Adrien in French. I know already Jen, but we can just take a moment for that if it's okay for you.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm Adrien. I'm from France, near Paris, in the south suburb. I'm an artist, and I'm in the way of creating an art school that will integrate this kind of practice, like generative coaching, in order for students to be more creative and more confident, self-confident with themselves. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Jen, you want to say a few words?
Oh, sure. I'm a therapist, a longtime therapist that is wanting to transition to generative coaching, which is sort of like a soft robe that fits my worldview and what I came into the world with and what I want to offer most. So I am a supporter and collaborator with a lot of artists, and am also wanting to create coaching spaces for artists post-COVID. So that's one of the things. I'm also really interested in truth and reconciliation movements around the world. And am hoping that I can integrate these ideas into that work as well.
Wow. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Jen.
Well, I can say a few words too. So I'm Leila. I'm French. I am a corporate trainer and a generative coach. And what else can I say? Well, I'm on this beautiful journey of integrating this work every day. That's why this workshop, this supervision thing, is very important to me, because I understood quickly that it was very important to practice and to reflect on this work. And it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful jewel, I want to say, that it's I think it can bring us so much if we know how to nurture it and how to care about it, because it means caring about us too, caring about our clients, caring about our work, caring about our world. And as you were saying, Jen, it sort of integrates everything. And I really like that both of you talked about art and artists, because for the longest time I thought I'm not an artist. If I'm anything, I'm not an artist. And I do believe now that we're all artists of our lives. We're all creators, and I think it's yes, I think it's very helpful way to look at it, and to it's exciting too to have this view. So I'm glad to be here and to be supporting of your work too.
Thank you, Leila. And I'm really glad to be here too. And I'm glad that you are both here, and Leila too. So I'm French, you know that. I'm the manager of a generative coaching, training and consulting company. It's been now many years that I'm working closely to Robert Dills and Stephen Gilligan. And I really like that work a lot. Yeah, it's a jewel, as you were saying, Leila. And I think it has really changed my way of working, my way of training, my way of coaching. I can say also my way of being. It has really changed lots of things. So I really know how important is that work in our lives. I used to be a dancer, so we are going to speak a lot about art, artists, yeah, artists of lives. So, and I have developed a method which I call generative somatic movement, which help people to connect or to reconnect to their bodies, to their somatic mind, to their emotions, and to be able to be the change they want to be in the world. So yes, that I really like very much generative coaching training. I did that 6 times in different countries. Yeah, I think I'm addict. Just at each time it's different because it's evolving, and I have incorporated that in my work and lots of generative change work. And finally, it's different each month, each year. It's evolving.
Yeah,
and that's why that's why it's a jewel. Yeah.
So Nathalie, I might see that as someone who's a rigorous learner, not an addict.
Yeah.
Someone who's really in the school of it.
Yeah, because I think at the very beginning I was really here in my cognitive mind, and that each time you go deeper and deeper and deeper, and you integrate that inside of you. And at each time, that's why it's different at each time, because when you hear Steve and Robert, it's not the same message, or you are not at the same level, so you hear the message in a different way.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm sure that you have heard that or sensed that. Sometimes you hear something and you say, oh, it's just for me. It's exactly what I was expecting.
Yeah.
It's the moment, it's the right moment for yourself. Mm. But it can speak to everyone in a different way. Mm-hmm. So, well, that's me.
Yes.
So perhaps you want to, do you have question about generative coaching, about the 6 steps, or is there something you want to share, a practice, a coaching, or what else? Everything.
Well, I appreciate, I just want to put out there that I appreciate what you said, Leila. I'm practicing with practicing every day. And so I'm putting these into my daily, I'm putting the steps into my daily practice, but I know I'm making it up and sort of using it in ways that make sense to me based on as much as I understand right now. So I would love to, so that's why I showed up, because I'm cultivating this practice. And I want to do it in community, and I want to learn more about how people are using it for themselves.
Yes. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Jen. And perhaps we can just begin with a global coach state together. So it could be some word, some guidance from you, or a somatic movement. What is coming to you? What emerges?
So what I like to do before starting a coach state, I like to scale myself where I'm at right now. Because I know that whenever I connect with any of you guys, I'm already in a coach state. So I ask myself, because I have a pain, like I have a sore arm, and I was like, I don't feel it anymore, so I must be in a coach state. But nonetheless, I do scale so that I'm like, okay, whereabout am I on the scale from 1 to 10? And okay, if I'm at a 7 or an 8, I'm like, how can you go a little bit deeper, a little bit further? How can you go closer to a 9, maybe, or a 10? And sometimes you just need to ask the question to sort of like go there, you know, how can I go? And there you go. So like your answer is kind of registered. And I liked what you said. I was nodding, Natalie, when you said I'm an addict, because I think we're addicts of our behaviors too. And I think with this practice, we're trying to become addicts of this generative behavior so that we are more in that state where we can welcome everything. So what I usually do in order for me to get a little bit deeper is that I just ensure that my feet are on the ground and I sense them, the soles on my feet, and I like to imagine roots going down to the center of the earth. And as I breathe up, I can just breathe up all the, all this energy that's coming from the earth, the ancestral learnings that's in the earth. And I'll let it go all the way up to the heavens and back down.
From the heaven, I imagine like a golden shower, which is coming through the sky to the top of my head. This golden shower is going down to my shoulders, along of my spine, my hips, my knees, my ankles, my feet, and down to the earth. And I'm just connected to the earth and to the sky, the stars, the universe. Just sensing my breath. And just taking some deep breath from my belly. Breathing and breathe out. Slowing down. Up the hips. And just with my eyes open, I can just open my arms just to connect myself to openness, open to give and open to receive. Breathe in and breathe out, and sense that you are opening. Relax your shoulders. Just let your arms opening.
All right, thank you. Okay. I don't know, maybe somebody has their WhatsApp open on the
Yeah,
computer.
it's me. I'm just quitting. Sorry. That's okay. Sorry.
Okay. So shall we ask for the intention for today's supervision workshop? I can start with, I'd like to give my intention somatically. And so what comes to me is this. It's really about holding the space. It's my thing. I like holding the space. It often comes as an intention.
Thank you, Leila.
Thank you.
Who wants to go next?
My intention is to strengthen my my life force. Something like that.
More life force.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. I see the warrior inside of you. in this gesture.
Oh no, I was taking in Adrian's beautiful. Yeah, I was taking that in and wondering how that might shift.
Isn't that interesting how as we do that, we feel this energy?
Yeah.
I was thinking it's such a beautiful intention, bringing in the life force, strengthening the life force. It's such a beautiful.
Yeah, I like what it is giving me, because it's containing strength.
Yeah.
And it's also protecting strength.
Yeah. Interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's why it's really important to experience the somatic gesture, because the meaning or what we sense can be totally different.
Yeah.
It depends on the day, of who we are, of so many things, finally.
And the body knows things that we can't figure it out just from here. So it's that the understanding is implicit. And if we don't make the gesture, then we stay on the explicit side of the understanding.
That's why when we don't know, if we connect to ourselves and to our somatic mind, we can find lots of answers because our body knows. Jen, do you want to share your intention?
Well, it's a little strange because other people are going to be watching this, right?
Yes, right.
Yeah,
You're right.
It's in the community.
Yeah.
So I'm going through a lot right now, and I'm experiencing how easy it is to be in crash state, and how easy it is to switch that off, easier than I think.
Mm.
So from our last work together a couple months ago, I'm still working with the same somatic movements. So it's this. And it's this. Sometimes a little bit of this.
That's great.
And this is regal and harnessing higher power energies. And once I access some of that, then this is sort of lioness protection of that energy.
I like that.
Well, it came from our work. I
remember.
It's had a long shelf life.
Great. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
And my intention for this session is being present. Thank you. So is there something you want to, do you have any questions or something you want to share or practice?
Yes, I have one. It's about, I try to make a 6 steps process every morning, but often I don't really meet the obstacle. See, I don't. There is nothing that comes to me. So I just stop before, like I do 1 or 2 steps, and then I lose focus because there is nothing happening.
So what you're saying is you go to the first step, which is creating a coach field.
Yes.
And then you go to the second step, which is setting an intention.
Yes.
And no obstacle there for the moment, yeah?
No, there is nothing that I can grab.
Okay, and then you move on to the third step, creative generative state. Is that it?
Yes.
And then the fourth, taking action.
Yes.
And still no obstacles.
I think I don't know. Maybe it's because the steps that comes to me are not that concrete, or there is nothing really challenging. It's two solutions. One is that there is nothing really challenging. One is that there is too many things really challenging, and so but the effect is the same. Like there is nothing that I can meet. See.
Yeah.
Perhaps Jen, do you want to share something about that, or do you have an idea or something you can share?
Just think it's so interesting that and I wonder what it says about you, Adrian. I want to say your name right.
Yes, Adrian.
Yeah, it's my favorite name. I mean, I wonder what it says about you, that the obstacle doesn't show up so clearly. And maybe it's not there for good reason. Because for me, when I move towards stuff, you know, and this is probably some of my Jewish ancestry too, all there are obstacles. You know, it's so obvious. All there is obstacles. And I think, well, that's interesting. Does that say something about sort of like assuming that there's going to be obstacles? Maybe, right? Maybe there are some days where the obstacles aren't clear, and that's okay. Does any of that make sense? Sometimes I assume that the obstacles are going to be bigger than they are, that they're always going to be there. And I just think it's so interesting that you have experiences where they're not showing up.
I know they are here, but I don't see them. It's like almost like a cloud that is everywhere, but I can't grab it.
How do you know that they're there?
I know because I have a big project in mind. So the project is not yet happening. So there are obstacles. See, so I know they are here, but you see, if the project was smaller and more easy to process, it will be easier for me to have little obstacles. Okay, again, I have to do that. So here I see an obstacle, but the project is so big and only faith can it's only faith that keeps me on it, you see. So the idea came that way, like spirit guided, and all the process is spirit guided. So I'm willing to follow that, but there is so much uncertainty because it's not something I can do, like from past experience. So sometimes there is like the obstacle would be not knowing at all how to proceed. You see, it's not like I know like I can write a schedule, and this week I will do that and that and that and that. It's not like that. So yeah, I'm just here. And, okay, I'm in coach state, but then what?
Then what? Where are the obstacles?
Yeah.
Where's everyone?
Yeah. Well, Adrian, I saw you go like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a sort of pressing down. So there's I guess what I want to share with you from my life is that obstacles can be sneaky. And they can be sort of like, well, I'm not going to show you exactly who I am, what I am, or even an image, but we got something. We got something.
Yeah, but I think this was a way for me to find my word. In French, it's repose sur. It's to lay down, to lay on. Like the sentence was, my project land on faith.
Faith.
Land on faith.
Yeah, this was my way to express that.
Oh, got it. Got it. Got it.
I would like to give you a feedback, Adrian, with what you've said. First of all, finding no obstacles, that's really interesting. And I'm sure that makes sense. And perhaps that's something has to be heard, held, or healed. And the first thing is to welcome that. And my second advice would be that I've heard once Steve said, when you meet no obstacles, just ask yourself how resonant is your intention to yourself. I don't know if you have resonance with what I'm saying, but the question is, when I'm setting my intention, do I really feel resonance inside of me? Mm. And as a coach, do I feel the resonance with my client when he's expressing, when he's doing that statement of this intention with this somatic gesture and with the color image? And sometimes setting the intention can be longer than we think here. And it can evolve. I have the first intention that I'm able to say, and perhaps the words can be different when I'm working on that deeply with resonance, with with a real connection to my somatic mind. Yeah. Or the path is already done and everything is done. So, and the work has already been done too. So there is no obstacles. This is another possibility.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you are really curious to figure this out.
Yes, I am.
I can talk about some experience I had with this with a client and with myself, actually, on my self-practice. I had this client once and she had this intention, and the moment she connected with her resources, she was able to go through the line and there were no obstacles there. So it could also be that, I guess. And I remember as well, one of my timelines of my own, like self-practice, like you were describing, the moment I would connect, it would go faster. But then again, as Nathalie was saying, it wasn't like this big intention, because I had chunked it down to smaller steps. But then my question is, I want to ask this because it came to me several times. So what bothers you about that, so to speak? You know, what is it that you find, you know, oh, I don't, you know, is it normal that I don't meet obstacles? How come you ask yourself this question?
Yeah, it's because it has been maybe a year that my wife and I, we feel guided to just do nothing. I do something. I go to training and that stuff, but mainly we do nothing, and it's really disturbing because we have many projects that we want to achieve, But now it's like just do nothing. And when I was starting to have a new little project, a new little thing in mind to go forward with the project, now I have COVID. So, so it's been a week that I'm sleeping. See? So it's yeah. So my job.
Welcome to the COVID.
Yeah, thank you. But so my job, I felt during this week was just to hold the space for COVID and health, my desire for health and COVID, and yeah, it was very interesting, and I meditated on death and the possibility of me dying, of my wife dying, and it was very grounding, this meditation. But yeah, it seems like it's always the same, I would say, lesson, to just do nothing and keep the faith, and do nothing and keep the faith. But you see, there is some part of me that is a little bit anxious, because I'm like, okay, if I do nothing, I don't see how something will happen, because what I want to build is very concrete. So I know there is a part of the universe giving me all the answers and all the opportunities I need, but yeah, this phase of not being able to meet people, not being able to go through everything I would like to put in place, and it's okay. Yeah,
Isn't that an obstacle?
yeah, it's an obstacle. Yeah, it's an obstacle, but I don't know if the obstacle is me thinking that there is an obstacle, or there is a problem with that. See, this is where I'm at. This is the thing I believe the most. I think the problem is that I think there is a problem, but a little part of me says, oh, okay, maybe there is a problem, and and maybe I'm just not watching it. See.
Oh, this is so interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you for this conversation. Because in this practice, it hasn't been explicit, has it? In terms of the concept of obstacles, whether they're concrete or whether they're internal mind states. And maybe it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, they can be both. You can have external obstacles and you can have internal obstacles.
Yeah.
And you often have a problem when an external obstacle meets an internal obstacle. Whereas if you have an external obstacle meeting a resource, an internal resource, then you may be okay.
Yeah. I have a question. I'm intuiting something. And in this work, if Adrienne was if I was coaching Adrienne, would it be within the ethics of this work to share what I'm intuiting?
Yeah.
Just in the conversation?
Yes, of course, because that everything comes to you from the field. So just you just share, and the person is really free to take it or not.
Would that be okay with you, Adrienne?
Yeah. Thank you for asking.
Oh, sure. I'm sort of imagining weather, how weather comes in, and it's not real concrete. Where I live in Colorado, the weather's always changing. Right now, it's crystal blue and clear, but tomorrow it could be snowing. So I'm used to that. like a movie set, weather coming in and out. And my sense of this obstacle had something to do with something that's not exactly tangible as a problem, but more like the weather of uncertainty. Like that there's faith, but faith is not the same thing as certainty. So I was wondering, like, whether that might be some of what you're experiencing, and if it was, what that would be like to invite that kind of weather in, the sort of not knowing as you step how it's going to go.
Yeah, yeah. That's something interesting, because I see sometimes I coach people, and I see that there is in coaching, in my coaching experiences, there is like two levels. One level is what I would call of the spirit, and it seems like for people to be guided by the spirit, what I call the spirit, they have to be clueless, and they have to be really faithful, and in this process of being able to hear the guidance, the internal guidance and all that stuff, you really have to lose everything, every grab to past experiences. So, and there is a real deep discomfort and a big fear inside of it. But many times clients come and they want to get rid of this fear, and they want to be reassured.
Yeah.
So, and when I coach, there is part of me that wants them to be reassured. But I also know from my experience that these phases, and they can be long, they can be a year of losing the sense of orientation.
Yeah.
But I know these periods are also learning periods to be able to go past the ego mind or the judging or controlling mind. But there is always this moment of questioning, or is it still right for me, like, to be disoriented that way?
Yeah.
When I have a friend of mine, it has been 3 years of disorientation, and he seems confident in leaving that, but for me it's like, okay, it goes on, and okay, yeah. So well, maybe you have a feedback to.
Yeah, I just would, what emerges when you're saying that is that the thing is, I think the main thing is that we are mainly in fight with our obstacles, or in flight or freeze, and taking the time to welcome the obstacle is really, can be longer for some people. It depends on the obstacle, it depends on you, on the period, on the time. So the first thing is to welcome, but it's something really difficult. Just to share an experience, I'm working in health coaching, and I'm working with people with cancers. And so there is always, we say, a sense to the illness. But when you need is not the right word. When we are speaking about welcoming your cancer, it's really difficult for people, and it can take a lot of time before being able to follow their healing path.
Yeah.
And they can't follow their healing path before having welcoming the obstacle. So whatever is the obstacle, it can be fear or just I'm blocked, or you were speaking with our past, or it's something you need to go to the next level and you are blocked here and you don't dare to go to the next level. So there is an obstacle, and it can take time to welcome that, and just welcome the time that we need to being able to welcome really the obstacle, and everything is okay.
I see in this process that what like the generative coach faith is that faith, the faith, the faith of generative coaching is that I'm sure it makes sense. It's like a little kind of prayer of, okay, whatever is happening, I'm sure it makes sense. It's like,
yeah,
okay.
that's why I was reminded that to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, they're called the mantras. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm sure it makes sense. Just what Nathalie just said.
Yeah.
Maybe something is trying to heal or be heard or be held, and then welcome. What came to me was two things. Well, first thing was, Houston, do we have a problem? Is there a problem? If there's the problem, if there's no problem, there's no problem. If things, clients come to us when there's a problem, and they also want something. Sometimes it's hard for them to utter it, to say exactly what they want. Sometimes, as Nathalie was saying, it's a whole session, maybe more. So I always ask myself, what came to me was, is there a problem? And then what is it that you want? In terms of like, when you go and see a client, it's different here because we're talking about this self-practice. But as long as there's no problem, it could be there's I want to think that it could be there's no obstacle for now. It could be that the obstacle is hidden because it's a deep obstacle that's going to hide and find every possible, hiding place so that they are not going to be seen or heard or dealt with or transformed into a resource. Can you imagine? That would be terrible. So it could be that. It could be just, for now, I always try to, people are not necessarily ready for, everything like every day. So it's also, there's a question for me of maturity, of maturing that.
That's why I was speaking about resonance with the intention. Because when you really go deeper inside of you and you are settling your intention, and that's why I was asking you, how resonant is your intention? How does it really resonate with you, within yourself, when you are saying the words, when you are doing the somatic gesture, and when you are seeing the image? How is it resonant?
It is resonant, like a lot.
Perfect.
And I keep the same intention mainly. I think I know what I want. That's for sure. For sure. That's what I can say.
I see that.
Yeah. So now I'm not sure how to go there, but yeah. And there are obstacles, but obstacles are not always on the line I go in the process, you see?
Yeah. Oh, what a surprise. Not always on the timeline.
Not always, no.
Yeah.
Not in your face. You again, what? Yeah, that reminds me of a few self-practices that I did, and like it was kind of close to what you're sharing here, Adrian. I was doing my timeline, and then my thing is taking action. Like I have it's hard for me to figure out in my self-practice taking action. And so I use this, the bridge of belief, and I move forward. I move myself forward to like 5 years or 10 years from now when I've achieved my goal, and I turn back and go and say, and give advice to the young Leila, or present Leila. And then what comes to me then, what comes to Leila 10 years from now is, you're doing exactly what you need to do. Just keep on going like that. And sometimes the other Leila is pissed off. I'm telling you, tell me something, what I need to
Yes.
So then I know I'm not in a coach state anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, but if I trust the process, if I trust the field, if I trust whatever comes, then it all calms down. And and sometimes I think for me it's also a part of, we live in a world that's been saying that this part of our brain can fix everything. It can understand everything and then fix everything and know everything. It cannot. And we're not doing this kind of work. And the world is obviously changing. COVID has changed a lot. And we live now in a world we couldn't even imagine 2 years ago. And we don't know what it's going to be like in 2 weeks from now. So it's interesting that this COVID is kind of like teaching us a new way of being, a new way of thinking. And I have the feeling that the world is really changing that way. And so we need to change with it. And some of us are more like, okay, I'm going to trust the process. I'm going to trust my feeling. I wanted to do that thing. I've got COVID. I can't. That's interesting. But then if you feel the impulse to, what I was saying earlier about, do you have a problem, is if you do nothing for 2 weeks and then you're like, I'm not doing anything, then of course, then you may want to, go back to your practice and see what's there. But if you're doing nothing and you're like, okay, no, I don't know. You're maturing, you're probably also maturing your, I don't know, project or so. What I'm saying is that sometimes, I used to do like 100 things. You know how like people say, if you want to have clients, you have to call 100 people and maybe you have one person that says yes, And when I was doing these processes, I would call one client, or I would have the impulse. In fact, I'm like, this person, I need to talk to this person. And I'll send them an email. And they're like, you know what? I was just going to talk to you. And I have something for you. That's strange, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm so lucky. And so I didn't have to make these 100 calls. So how do I explain that? I don't know.
What comes to me, I don't know if you remember that, Leila, with what you were saying, is when we were in Morocco and there was, Steve was about to make a decision, and the decision was really important, and it was at dinner. And he told us, I will hold that question the whole night and we will have the answer tomorrow. And sometimes holding the question is exactly what you were saying. And the answers are coming to you when you don't expect that. And when it comes to you exactly what you were saying, you said, wow, I'm lucky. That's interesting. That's the right moment, the right answer. So sometimes holding the question, holding the project can be something good.
Yes, because you could spend that much time worrying about it.
Yeah. For sure.
And our own state is really important when we are waiting for that answer. Because if we stay in a coach state, it's easier to welcome everything that is coming to you and through you, to you from the field and through you inside of you too.
Yeah. This makes me think that maybe the most important step is to be in a coach state, and after, if there is an obstacle, we can hold it, but if there is nothing, keep the coach state
and hold it too.
with the fact there is nothing. Yeah.
Hmm.
I have some questions if it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm getting it, but I'm also, like, on a practical level, trying to do these steps in the morning. I've been, I do a set of practices and I find that it's been interesting to do these steps to music for me. Because it helps me stay in a whole different level of coach state. If it's repetitive chant music, that's been helpful. I just sort of came upon that, exploring, and I feel like I sort of go through these steps lying down and I get it. And sometimes I even write it down, and then I lose it the whole day. Like I haven't yet created a practice where it's helping me sustain during difficulties during the day. And I'm going through a hard time, and it would be great to be able to carry this. So I have questions about that, and just what people's daily practices sort of look like. Do you do others? Not that there's any right way, but do you do a series of practices and this is the last thing you do? Do you write down the intention? Do you come back to it? Someone told me that Steve does it twice a day, which makes sense to sort of bookend it.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, I'm looking for some guidance about integrating this so that it helps me and it isn't just conceptual.
Maybe we can share all our practices.
I would love that.
Anyone wants to start? Or? How long do we have?
Yeah, a year.
Okay. I can tell you what I do, okay? And I've been, okay, I came across generative trance in 2015, and I started doing coaching. So I remember he was saying then 10 coach states a day. I was like, yeah, right. Are you kidding me? Who's gonna?
Day.
Yeah. I was like, there's no way. And so the best I could do was 3 coach states a day. And I remember him saying, you don't need, when you go and make coffee, you don't need a coach state, but I had 2 little boys at the time. And yeah, I needed the coach state before coffee. So coach state was my first thing, like as much as I could. And I will try to do it like even in the subway, on the subway, not holding anything, being standing and just trying to find my balance. And that was a great thing because at the time I used to take it every day. And so because I was tuning in like every day, back and forth, like going to work and back from work, then it became like an anchor. So I would just need to go on the subway, stand there, and I'd be like coming to work, I'd be like in a coach state. And so the practice is also going to help you do that. Getting in faster, holding it longer. then I started doing other things, but because at first I wasn't sure what it meant, except for doing a coach state and doing a timeline, for instance, the whole 6-step thing. But I know now, I understand now that my walk in the forest is a practice, because when I'm there, like I say, I put myself at the frequency of the trees. I feel like I'm going down deeper. I connect with the earth, I connect with nature, and I connect with my true nature. Sometimes I meditate with guidance. Often I have something in my ears. I have a whole bunch, depending on how I feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I do Qigong. It's also a practice that I do. Then I feel all relaxed after. I know I'm in a coach state afterwards.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just do this singing. I go on YouTube. There's a singing coach, and I do just like the warm-ups, and I feel so relaxed afterwards. I'm like, I'm so in a coach state. Like, it's nobody's business. All right.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just dance. I put good music on, and I dance for 5 minutes, and I'm like, woohoo! I'm in a coach state. Yeah, so it could be a lot of things. And the more, like my experience is that the more stuff you have, the better it is, because you can switch from one to another. You can have something handy. Can't always take 30 minutes to do my Qigong practice, but and then the more you do it, the easier it gets to get there. And we were talking about addiction earlier. We are addicted chemically, we are addicted also to our behaviors. So someone who's, and so for me, it's always, okay, we have the right to also go through our, so to speak, negative emotions at times. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm just going to give up because I can't get myself back in a coach state, and I'm just going to go through this, and then I'll come back up. But most of the time I try to hold it that way.
Yeah, well, this is really helpful, because I have a whole menu of things, and as you said that, I realized, wow, this work is really paying off, that I even have a menu. Like I have a menu. So maybe it's a little bit like cultivating. I'm sort of imagining a container, like a potter at a wheel. And so maybe as I go through this crisis, I can sort of see myself at the wheel, cultivating slowly. If I can't get there, that's okay too, but that the intention is to cultivate that coach state all the time.
Yeah.
Because it's a filter. It's like it makes or breaks my relationship with reality. There's a lot at stake between crash and coach. There's a whole reality at stake. Yeah, that's helpful. So you started cultivating that. Yeah. And then can you talk a little bit about, or can anybody talk a little bit about their relationship in holding a timeline?
When you say holding a timeline, with holding the intention? Yeah.
Because I think part of also where I've been getting confused, and it's not so helpful, is that I set the Hebrew word is kavanah. It's like setting an intention for the day, which is fine and good, but it isn't always connected to my timeline. So it's sort of in the air, and that hasn't been helpful. And I could see that if I could ground my intention with real world items of movement,
Hmm.
that would make all the difference. I've been missing that part.
Yeah. Yeah, setting an intention can be something bigger. Adrienne was speaking about a big project,
Yeah.
something really important.
Yeah.
And sometimes, yeah, indeed, you can set an intention just for the day. And when Leila was speaking, I was searching for something I have. When the lockdown began last year, I did 50 days of setting an intention with image and lots of intention inside, and I wrote on that every day. What is my intention for the day? And
Beautiful.
and sometimes I'm drawing, sometimes I'm taking image. You see, speaking about intention, the first time I was at NLPU with Robert Dills, and I set my intention for my life, and this is still on the wall of my at my office. So it's something you can also doing the gesture every day, having the image on your wall. And sometimes when I'm working with clients, I ask them to search for an image or some words they say, and to have that on their desk or on their computer. And then you go deeper and deeper and deeper. And sometimes you are changing the words, you are changing the image, you are changing the gesture, and everything can evolve.
Well, I created, you guys see my collage?
Yeah. Great. Beautiful.
Yeah, that's
So,
really nice.
So I do have an intention for my life.
Uh-huh.
And it's similar to what Leila was saying about holding space.
Mm.
But now because of this conversation, I'm going to be holding questions as well as space.
Yeah.
But it sits there. You know, I haven't brought it into the practice.
Mm-hmm.
So so that's really helpful. I think I'm going to work with that as my North Star for several months.
Yeah. That's why it was a great question, Jen, because the sixth step is really the most, well, I was about to say the most important, but finally I think each step is really important. But when you are practicing, this is a way to evolve in your coach state, being able to really embody that. And well, for example, we were speaking about coach state. We were doing an exercise at the beginning of that session, and we were closing our eyes and being able to be in a coach state in your car with eyes open. In each situation of your life, when I'm arguing with my daughters, I'm doing a coach date. When you are, well, it's a way of being.
Yeah.
And sometimes you of course you disconnect from that, and you are in a crash state. It's just human to be in a crash state, but you reconnect really quickly to your coach state if you are practicing. And it's the same for the intention and for your path when you are taking actions, and when you have lots of resources with you. So it's easier to transform obstacles, whatever comes to you, because you are practicing.
And just to continue this conversation, to get an idea of how people are moving through the 6 steps in their lives, is it somatic? Do you get up and move?
Yeah. Every day. I'm beginning with a meditation, and then I'm doing somatic movement with music, and sometimes just yoga. But every day, yes, I'm moving. And I feel that sometimes I'm really connected to my body and sometimes it's not the case at all.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I feel some, as it was des fragments.
Fragmented?
Fragments.
Yeah.
And not really, I don't feel the flow inside of me. So, and when I'm moving, it's like everything is you connect yourself to the fluidity, and then I'm ready to go to work.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes you need to move to evacuate to emotions, to just to reconnect to yourself, to your deep self. This is a journey.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you should say that because I've been thinking a lot about you when I get stuck. And I have your voice in my head has reminded me to move.
Thank you.
Because when I experienced that lockdown, that crash state, I cannot move. I'm paralyzed.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, so you get up and you move through the 6 steps.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, you can just let go of the words and just do the gesture on the 6 steps.
Yeah.
Yeah, Leila. Exactly that.
Yeah.
Obstacle.
Yeah.
That's why you can also find your own gesture for the coach state for each letters.
Say more.
You can just connect to yourself. First, you're doing breathing and breathe out and connected to each part of your body, and like a body scan. And then just connect to the center of yourself and just feel it inside of you. Where is it? Where do you feel your center? How do you feel it? You can, for example, move like this and move behind, so back and forth, and on the right, on the left. Just feel that. And then if you connect to yourself, if you have to express what is your somatic gesture for I'm centered? For me, it's like this.
Yeah.
And just find your own gesture for open and aware and connected and hold. Hospitality.
Beautiful. And so, for you all who have been practicing this, what about that idea of bookending it? So I do understand, Leila, what you were saying, that you learned to, well, both of you learned to, and maybe Adrian too, learned to cultivate coach state through the day, sitting at the wheel. Yeah. But do you return to your intention at the close of the day to sort of review?
I'm doing that sometimes just before sleeping.
Sometimes I forget completely even setting an intention for the day. I just stay with the coach state. And often what happens to me whenever I meet an obstacle or I feel uncomfortable in my body, then I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Okay, go back into your coach state. And that sort of reminds me. But depending on what kind of week I have ahead of me, what kind of day I have ahead of me, if there's something at stake, or if I know I'm going to meet obstacles, then I do stick with it more easily because the circumstances are challenging. And at the end of the day, lying down this time on my bed, yes, I go through it and I'm like, okay, that was a good day because that happened like I wanted it to happen, or it was closer to what I wanted. But I want to say something, because you mentioned, I think, if I heard well, that sometimes you do it lying down.
Yeah.
And I know that Steve, and for the longest time, I didn't understand why. But he does, he says that the vertical axis is a really important thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're definitely better off doing it sitting or standing.
Yeah.
And if you have a tendency not to move too much or use your body, I would say even more so, do it standing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I sometimes have back problems too. So sometimes I lie down, I'm like, I'm going to take these minutes to sort of like go through the process and stuff. And I can feel that it's not as, like, I kind of sense that it's not as effective as when I do it sitting or standing. But I you know, it's still okay.
It hasn't been working lying down. It's way more powerful to get up and move on the timeline.
Yeah.
And it gets me out of the lock to be moving on the timeline, and the answers come in the movement.
Yeah.
So
There you go.
wow, I'm just learning so much. It's so helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to you.
And Adrian, do you have what are your practices so far? Do you want to share them with us too?
Yeah, my practices were before generative coaching, but I've been a long practitioner of A Course in Miracles, which has a menu of meditation practices.
Okay.
So, and I can relate with what you said, Leila, about when the context is more demanding. It's easier for me to, my practice was meditating every hour for 5 minutes when I was at work. And I did it for many years. And it was very easy to do that at work. And my colleagues were used to see me close my eyes every hour. So, and for me, it was coach state. I call that give me love. I was giving me love, like I see light and it's very good.
Great.
And it helped me a lot during projects that went very wrong. And I was able to not be mad and just pray, connect, and breathe. And so it was very good. But now my practice is not related to that spiritual path anymore, because I wanted to see more different things, different approaches. And I enjoy to see the same kind of practices and to acknowledge the importance of practice in everything that matters, especially to develop a sense of grounding, a sense of holding. Yeah, and I enjoy this community because I can feel the same welcomeness, same compassion that I used to have in other communities. And yeah, it allows me to share even when I'm not, like I make newbie mistakes, like for the beginners. But I'm not a beginner. It has been many years already that I've been practicing. But I enjoy to share that because I think the conversations that come with this being open to share, like beginner mistakes, are reviving the teaching.
Beautiful.
Right.
Yeah.
Adrian, you just changed my life with something that you said. When you said practice in everything that matters. Wow. That's a game changer for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm.
So Natalie, do you love doing this or do you love doing this?
I'm wondering if
I know.
I'm going to do that again.
Yeah.
I was thinking, oh, another Zoom call, but I feel so energized. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And perhaps we can just say 5 words for what you are taking away from this session, or a gesture, or an image, or of the three.
Well, mine is practice in everything that matters.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you.
Yeah, and then with that, I have an image of a tree. Like the trunk is like that. The trunk is like that, and it's welcoming what is given by the universe, whatever, and bringing it to the earth, to the earth, to the heart.
Thank you, Adrien.
Merci.
Well, what comes to me is what I heard Robert say not too long ago when we were in Paris. He was saying, if you're not comfortable doing the coaching, if you don't trust yourself as a coach, trust the process. If you can't trust the process, trust the field. If you can't, and this comes back to me because I'm like, isn't this so beautiful that we meet together and we share together and everything resonates for everyone, like it was the place to be, so to speak, and that it's there's this saying in French that all the planets are aligned when things go well. And somehow I love to believe that planets are aligned all the time. Even when you don't notice. And I think it's true, because it really depends on what you're looking, how you look at it. Really, they're aligned. So thank you all for being here and sharing.
Thank you, Leila.
Thank you.
And that's really amazing, because I was about to say just before you were saying that I really feel aligned inside. Yeah, and so that's really amazing to speak about planet are aligned. So okay, thank you, and it was really nice to see you all and to be with you, to be present with all of you. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Blessings to you.
See you.
Bye.
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 Bye.